All right, today we are jumping into a really powerful and honestly a kind of mind-bending idea. What if scarcity, the one economic problem that has basically defined all of human history, is already over?
For thousands and thousands of years, this was just the reality. Our entire world, our economies, our politics, it's all built on this one core belief. There just isn't enough to go around. It was a constant fight for survival.
But what if that's just not true anymore? What if the whole game has changed, but we're all still playing by the old rulebook? That's the huge question we're digging into today, based on a really fascinating paper called After Scarcity. So, first things first, let's unpack what we mean by this old scarcity story. Because we have to understand, for most of our history, scarcity wasn't just some idea, it was a hard, cold, unavoidable fact of life.
I mean, really think about it. You've got limited farming methods, you're at the mercy of the weather, you have very basic tools. Just feeding everyone took up pretty much all of society's time and energy. And that reality, that constant struggle, it shaped every single institution we have today.
Okay, but here's the twist. That story might be over. Here in the 21st century, the actual factual reasons for scarcity have started to just crumble away. The evidence is piling up that we now live in an age of, well, staggering potential abundance. Let's start with food. According to the UN, we are already producing well over 2,900 calories for every single person on the planet, every single day. That's not just enough, it's more than enough. So the problem of hunger today, it's not a production problem anymore. It's a distribution problem.
And it's not just food. Take a look at energy. Clean energy used to be this expensive boutique thing. Not anymore. Get this, in 2024, an incredible 91% of new large-scale renewable projects actually generated electricity for cheaper than building a new fossil fuel plant. Abundant, clean energy isn't a dream. It's an economic reality right now.
And then we get to automation. Now this number, it's often talked about as a threat. And look, it's a huge challenge we have to face. But it's also powerful proof of something amazing. It shows just how good we've gotten at making things. We are getting so efficient that we need way less human labor to produce everything we need to live a good life. Okay, so this brings up the big paradox, right? If we've got the technical ability for abundance in food, in energy, in all this automated production, why are so many people still struggling so hard? Why does life still feel defined by scarcity? Well, the source material argues the barrier isn't technical anymore. It's ideological. It's in our heads. To get at this, the paper uses a term from the late theorist Mark Fisher, capitalist realism. Now, this isn't about saying capitalism is good or bad. It's about this feeling, this atmosphere, that it's the only game in town. Fisher famously said it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. It's that feeling that makes our political debates all about tinkering with the current system, instead of ever asking if it's the right system for our time. So how does this actually work in our day-to-day lives? Well, it takes these huge systemic problems and reframes them as your personal failings. Can't find a job? It's not a structural issue with the economy. Nope, you need to work on your employability. Can't afford a home? You must be bad with your money. You see how this works? It stops us from even thinking about the big collective solutions to problems that are actually totally solvable. This brings us to a massive fork in the road, especially with tech like AI and automation. We can stick to the scarcity-preserving path, where all the incredible gains from technology flow to a tiny group of people and life for everyone else gets more and more insecure, or we could choose the after-scarcity path. This is where we treat all this progress like a collective inheritance, a social dividend that benefits all of us, maybe through a shorter work week or by making sure our basic needs are met, period. Okay, so if the old system isn't really working for our new reality, what does a system designed for abundance actually look like? Well, the paper lays out a practical framework. It calls it sustainable abundance. And it's built on three really clear principles. Number one, we have to accept the fact that giving everyone a decent, dignified standard of living is now totally possible. Number two, access to the essentials, housing, healthcare, it should be unconditional. It should be a human right, not something you have to earn. And number three, and this is absolutely critical, this abundance has to exist within our planet's ecological limits. This isn't about endless, mindless consumption. It's about ending deprivation. So what does that look like in the real world? Well, it would be a huge shift. It would mean treating a house as a home to live in, not just a stock to be traded.
It means funding healthcare and education as true public goods for everybody. And yeah, it means finally adapting to our own success by working less and making sure everyone has a basic income so that your very survival doesn't depend on having a job. And this is where the whole argument really lands. It's a profound point. We are at a turning point as a species. The biggest challenge in front of us is no longer a technical one. Let's just be super, super clear about this. For the first time in all of human history, our ability to make enough food, enough energy, enough stuff for everyone to live a good life, that is not the main thing holding us back. We can do it. The real roadblocks are the systems we've built, our economic rules, our political priorities, and maybe most of all, the stories we tell ourselves about what's possible. The problem is a failure of imagination and a lack of political will. And this quote from the source material just says it all, really. For most of history, yeah, widespread suffering was tragic, but it was also just an unavoidable part of life. But the moment we have the power to stop that suffering, choosing not to, that becomes an ethical failure. It's no longer a tragedy, it's a choice. And so that leaves us, it leaves all of us, with a final, unavoidable question. Now that we live in a world where we can provide for everyone, what's our moral responsibility? It's not a question of what's possible anymore. It's a question of what we're willing to do.